people can be arrested for their crimes. That's mainly because humans generally are intelligent enough to understand consequences behind their actions. So an animal surely wouldn't be susceptible to arrest, right? A goat that possessed a flagrant disregard for the law. Police in India were called to the northwestern district of Korea on February 8, 2016, after multiple reports were placed on a neighborhood goat. The goat, known as Babli, frequently trespassed into its neighbor's property, consuming an abundance of flowers, grass, and vegetables. Abdul Hassan, who was the legal owner of the goat, had previously been warned on many occasions to keep his goat from grazing on the property by both the landowner and his gardener. However, this didn't stop the animal from freely jumping over the iron gate and ruining the garden whenever it pleased. The lack of discipline caused officials to step in and take measures into their own hands. Eventually, the landowner, who was a local magistrate, had had enough. Officers were able to arrest Abdul and Babli, charging both the owner and his goat for trespassing and property damages. News spread of the unusual arrest, causing several news stations to film and conduct interviews at the scene. Once taken into custody, Abdul Hassan spoke to NDTV, a New Delhi broadcast network, where he admitted to his goat's offenses, claiming that he knew what the goat was doing and promised that no further damage would be caused from that day forward. Officer Ram Sewak Pikra was able to make a formal statement to reporters stating that the goat had been a repeat offender and could no longer be tolerated by the gardener who maintained the land. Abdul and his goat were taken into police custody until Babli was granted bail and was released the following day, leaving its owner to suffer the consequences in jail. Both were eventually bailed out under the Indian Penal Code, which granted each charge as bailable offenses. Abdul currently faces a 2 to 7 year prison term and a fine if found guilty. And shockingly enough, Babli also faces the same. A final verdict will be made in their case later in 2016. There's always seemed to be something rather shady about pigeons. With a small population just shy of 6,500 residents, the Indian village of Manwal rests near the border of Pakistan and has been a common ground for infiltration feuds between Pakistan and India. On March 28, 2015, a white pigeon caught the eye of a 14-year-old boy in the village interested in keeping the bird as a pet. The pigeon was promptly captured and had been in the midst of having its wings clipped when the adolescent caught a glimpse of suspicious writing tucked under the wings and tail of the bird. Unsure of his bizarre findings, attention was brought to his father, who alerted his son to report the inscriptions to the local police station. At approximately 9 p.m. that evening, police were able to identify the inscriptions as words partially written in Urdu, the national language of Pakistan, which included an address and what seemed to be a phone number from the neighboring country. Concerned over the discovery, officers detained the pigeon in a small makeshift jail cell cage, keeping the pigeon locked up for suspected espionage. Carrier pigeons are no strangers to communication. They've been used for that purpose for many, many years. And it became a plausible option to officers that the pigeon found at the border may have been sending out messages to troops hiding over the Indian borders for further contact by residents in Pakistan. The investigation ensued, and the alleged spy bird was transported to a veterinary city hospital for x-rays. Despite their assumptions, the bird didn't seem to carry anything indicating ill will, and the pigeon was cooperative while in custody. This wasn't the only pigeon that had been caught with strange inscriptions under its wings, as another had been reported to have been captured in 2010. A second report in April of 2013 indicated that a deceased falcon had also been previously found at the India-Pakistan border with a camera attached to its body. All three cases have been written down as potential spies by law enforcement. Media attention followed the case, causing international headlines to surface the internet. Though the potential threats have escalated in a serious manner, many have mocked the case on social media with hashtags such as hashtag Pigeon versus India and hashtag If I Were a Pigeon. Without further advances in the investigation, the pigeon was released from police custody 9 days after its arrest and was given to Ramanjit Singh, a respected bird lover and caretaker. Ramanjit assured the public that the suspected spy pigeon would live a content life in his possession. In villages and towns in Nigeria, it's quite common to see vigilantes roaming the streets. It appeared to be a regular evening on January 22, 2009. The streets patrolled and protected by unsung heroes as police weren't active during the late hours. Except this evening took an interesting turn. A group of vigilantes came across two suspicious men attempting to steal a Mazda vehicle in a local area of the town. Noticing that they were being watched, both robbers fled the scene but were immediately chased. One of the unidentified men managed to successfully escape the patrolman, while the second fell behind. Just as the vigilantes turned down streets to capture their offender, they stumbled across a goat in the same direction as where the man had been running off to. With a fairly strong belief in witchcraft through some areas of Nigeria, the group of vigilantes stopped in their tracks and took a hold of the goat, believing that the robber they had been chasing down the community streets turned himself into an animal to avoid detection and escape his crimes. The goat was detained and taken straight to the proper authorities so justice could hopefully be served. The group of men made their way to Nigerian police where they demanded that the goat be incarcerated for the attempted robbery. After capturing the goat, the men were certain that ritualistic black magic had indeed taken place, no longer viewing the goat as a helpless animal, but instead a dangerous criminal in disguise. What was a seemingly small crime had now turned into an abomination worthy of national news headlines. The spotted black and white goat was photographed in police custody while sitting on a patch of hay, while reporters who were fascinated by the absurdity of the case began interviewing Tunde Muhammad, a spokesman for the Kwara State Police. Due to the fact that he had not been a witness that evening, Tunde could not confirm the claims by the vigilantes, but went on to state, "We cannot confirm the story, but the goat is in our custody. We cannot base our information on something mystical. It is something that has to be proven scientifically that a human being turned into a goat." Citizens in Nigeria traveled to the local jail to catch a glimpse of the suspect. With many truly believing the powers of witchcraft, the case of the arrested goat gained more and more publicity. Police were ultimately unsure what measures to take and simply kept the goat, waiting for its owner to rightfully claim it. Further investigations in this case were no longer pursued as time progressed, and no additional leads were made. It's uncertain if the owner went on to claim the incarcerated goat or if the police had eventually released the criminal goat back into the public to eventually shift back into its human form. A huge thank you to Audible for sponsoring this episode. The people at Audible are big fans of Seriously Strange and have graciously decided to support this episode and my work. Audible is the leading provider of audiobooks with over 150,000 titles to choose from, and they're offering you, Seriously Strange viewers, a free 30-day trial to try out their incredible service. All you need to do is go to audible.com/Rob to start your 30-day free trial. I've been using Audible for quite some time, and I'm currently listening to Serial Killers, an encyclopedia of true crime short stories about 100 different serial killers. This audiobook tells morbidly fascinating stories of serial killers and is sure to get you hooked, but I won't spoil it for you. If you want to listen to something else, however, that's no problem. Audible has plenty of other genres to choose from science to self-help to fantasy, and much, much more. All you need to do is go to audible.com/Rob, start your 30-day free trial, listen anywhere you want, and expand your mind. Thank you for listening. That's all for now. Remember, you really may not believe it, but anything is possible in a world so seriously strange. Now, be sure to check out my episode on 7 Deadly Sins Killers. 7 killers, 7 sins. You're sure to love it. You can either click on screen now or the link in the description below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to my channel because you won't want to miss what's next. And I'll see you next Wednesday.